Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on leadership development using Hogan Assessments. We are thrilled to have you all here, and we hope that you will find this webinar both interesting and helpful. My name is Addelse. I am a managing consultant at Addelse. At Addelse, we help organizations to build better workplaces and employee experience by using insights from employee surveys and leadership development programs. Today, we will be focusing on leadership development and crucial role that assessments play in developing effective leaders. We're really excited to have a special guest with us today, Ms. Katja Friedrichs, who is executive coach with PhD in personality psychology and Hogan Assessment certification. She is going to share some insights about leadership and assessments. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me today. Thank you for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, so both as psychologists and as consultants, we understand that personality plays a crucial role in shaping individual behavior and also organizational incomes. So let's discuss today why personality is so important in a workplace, especially for leaders.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm just going to take over from this point. Thank you so much for having me here to talk a little bit about building leadership and talent using Hogan Assessment. And thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I'm really happy to be here today and talk a little bit more about it. Just a little bit from my background, I'm with Summit. We are a leadership consultancy headquartered in Copenhagen, and our connection to Hogan is that we're actually Europe's leading Hogan distributor, and our markets cover the Scandinavia, Benelux, and the Baltics, and that's why I'm happy today to talk a little bit more about Hogan Assessments. So let's dive right in. I'm going to talk a little bit about why personality matters in building leadership and talent. I'm going to, of course, introduce Hogan Assessments a little bit to you and how we can harness the power of Hogan Assessments. So why does personality matter? Today, I wanted to start by this compelling quote, actually by Robert Hogan, the founder of Hogan Assessments. Personality drives leadership. Leadership drives organizational performance. And who is in charge matters greatly for the fate of the organizations and the people in them. Let's ponder on this a little bit. The quality of our lives is deeply intertwined with our careers, which in turn are influenced by the organizations we're part of. The success of the organizations are steered by their leadership, which is driven by the characteristics of those at the helm. So today, we'll explore the influential role of personality and how with Hogan Assessments, we can harness it to foster exceptional leaders and nurture robust talent. So why does personality even matter? Well, personality underlies our every action, interaction, and reaction. It's the engine behind how we manage change, execute strategy, build relationships, handle conflict, and manage people. But why does personality merit such attention then? Well, for millennia, humans have pursued three core objectives: to get along with others, to get ahead, and to find meaning in life. Personality is the unique way of us navigating these objectives with our individual strengths, communication styles, but also derailing behaviors. In the workplace, it predicts our approaches to our duties, whether we work with zeal, for instance, with intelligence or cooperation. For employers, understanding personality is crucial. It goes beyond what interviews reveal, for instance, guiding strategic hiring that fits company culture. For individuals, knowing one's personality is a compass for navigating professional growth and managing one's reputation, which is critical for long-term success. Now let's tackle a fundamental question. What is personality? And there are two perspectives to consider. Personality from the inside out, or what we call identity, which is our self-concept, our internal narrative, the ambition, fears, and stories we tell ourselves about who we are. But this self-perception isn't always accurate. It can be subjective and overly optimistic, quite frankly, failing to mirror how we truly behave or how are we perceived by others. Then there is personality from the outside in, which is known as reputation. This is how others perceive us, and this is most often more accurate than our self-view, because reputation is formed by observable behavior. It's how others see us, and it's a critical determinant of our effectiveness, especially in leadership roles. But why does this matter? Understanding the distinction is so essential because while identity can be very self-deceptive, reputation is a strong predictor of professional performance and leadership potential. Because in leadership, perception is reality. So identity is the story you tell to yourself about yourself. Reputation is the story others tell about you. Identity is a weak predictor for performance, while reputation is a strong predictor for performance. So personality data predicts behavior extremely well. It predicts, for instance, if you're likely to be too forceful, too demanding, enabling, strategic, operational, which in turn impacts your performance and effectiveness. And when looking at leadership effectiveness and personality, one very great study came out from Fred Luthen, who studied 500 managers over 2 years and tracked them using a variety of methods, such as assessment and interviews, to identify successful managers. And he identified two distinctive types of successful leaders, actually. There were emergent leaders and effective leaders. Emergent leaders are often quickly noticeable and rise swiftly in the organization due to a high visibility and networking skills. Their rise is marked by rapid promotions and recognition, but not necessarily by their ability to lead teams effectively. Such leaders are adept at gaining status and often become the face of the leadership within large hierarchical structures. Effective leadership, on the other hand, they were found may not be to ascend the corporate ladder as quickly, but they excelled in building and nurturing high-performing teams. Their focus lie in actual team performance and not just self-promotion. These leaders spend a substantial time working directly with their teams, driving group success through a deep understanding of team dynamics and needs. So here's the paradox. The study revealed that there was a minimal overlap between these groups, with only about 10% correlation. This discrepancy underscores a critical organizational challenge: the tendency to promote leaders based on their emergence rather than true effectiveness. This is the traditional focus of HR and recruiters. However, effective leadership concerns building a team that outperforms rival groups and wins the group competition. This insight leads us to reflect on the need for organizations to recalibrate their approach to leadership development. Real leadership extends beyond mere advancements to how one influences and leads others to collective success. It involves understanding and adapting one behavior to suit different situations, a concept we at Hogan refer to as strategic self-awareness. Effective leaders understand their strengths and weaknesses and behavioral tendencies. These leaders have strategic self-awareness. First, to know when their usual mode of behavior is less advantageous, and then they can self-correct that. And they learn based on past experience that they have to challenge their natural inclinations. They can leverage adaptive behavioral skills to be tactical when they need to be tactical and strategic when they need to be strategic. For instance, if someone is a very strong operational leader, they have likely gained a role where their organizational skills, compliance, process focus on, and conscientiousness about details and rules have paid off for them and their teams very well. In some circumstances, though, it would benefit them, their team, and their organization if they emphasized strategy and adopted a long-term focus. So an effective leader knows when a shift is required and brings contextual balance by adapting their behavior and relying on the strengths of others. Strategic self-awareness, therefore, is key for leaders. It's about knowing your strengths and weaknesses in relations to others' perceptions. Effective leaders harness this awareness to align their behaviors with the expectation and needs of their teams. Leaders adept in self-awareness are distinguished by their commitment to seeking and acting on feedback, propelling them towards success. A lack of it, however, can lead to leadership ineffectiveness, marked by blind spots and resistance to change. True self-awareness becomes strategic when it informs actionable steps towards improvement. Hogan Assessments provide leaders with concrete, actionable insights for their growth and development, proving that while humans aren't inherently self-aware, strategic self-awareness can be developed with deliberate effort and reliable tools. Many people are actually surprised to find that humans, and especially leaders in particular, are not naturally self-aware. It takes effort and work to create that strategic self-awareness. In fact, the human brain is hardwired to keep negative information out, to keep critical feedback away from us, away from our own awareness. But when we're using assessment tools like Hogan, it gives us concrete and actionable insights that we can use to fuel our growth and development and increase our effectiveness. Now let's dive into what Hogan Assessments actually is. Hogan Assessments are global leaders that offer premium assessment-based solution for informed people decisions. And by now, over 75% of Fortune 500 companies actually trust in the Hogan for the valuable insights it gives. Their core assessments address universal organizational challenges such as enhanced safety solution, identifying high potential individuals, and fostering leadership and talent development. One thing that is really distinctive for the Hogan is their comprehensive research archive, which provides performance data for diverse global job roles. And Hogan assessments therefore benefit individual teams and organizations worldwide. But why really Hogan assessments? What is the difference here? Well, I already mentioned their research-driven excellence. Hogan assessments stand on a solid foundation of over 3 decades of advanced research, featuring data from more than 3 million working adults. This extensive archive includes over 400 validation studies that confirm the assessment's accuracy in predicting job performance, with validities ranging from 0.29 to 0.54. Also, their reputation focus. I mentioned before the difference between identity and reputation. At the heart of the Hogan assessment is the measurement of an individual's reputation, how they are perceived by others. This approach offers a more objective view of a person's impact, crucial for accurate leadership assessment, while usually we tend to assess more identity with personality assessments. Next, there comes the predictive capability of Hogan. Our tools are proven to predict key business outcomes, such as performance enhancement or reduced turnover. And we have ongoing ROI studies that our Hogan research departments continuously demonstrate the real-world impact of our personality-based assessment. And lastly, the context. It was framed for workplace selection and development. They're specifically designed for professionals, aligning with organizational needs for the whole HR cycle. Our global and culturally relevant tools ensure that our assessments are effective across diverse settings. So this comprehensive approach that Hogan has helps organizations effectively identify and develop potential, ensuring that talent management strategies are as impactful as they are insightful. And when it comes to versatility in talent development, Hogan Assessments are unparalleled. They serve as a bedrock for a wide array of initiatives, whether we're crafting tailored development plans for standout employees, spotting high potentials, forging strong teams, planning succession, or guiding executive coaching. Hogan Assessment is adapted to support the entire HR employee value chain. And in an era where HR leaders face the challenge of optimizing resources, Hogan's data-driven approach becomes a strategic ally. By embedding assessment-based development across the organization, we don't just save on cost, we also propel other business objectives forward. But there is no one-size-fits-all here. The true strength of Hogan lies in its ability to mold to an organization's specific ambitions. Now let's dive into the core assessments of Hogan. We do measure value, strengths, and risk with the core assessments. So what we look at with the motives, values, and preferences and inventory is actually we're interested in your individual core values, the goals and interests that determine satisfaction and drive careers. This tells us a little bit more about the environment you will strive to create, and actually if you will like the job. People behave differently depending whether they're on stage or off stage. We're also looking at bright side personality, which concerns behaviors when people are on stage. These are our strengths or characteristics we possess to create the environment we're striving for. Within the HBI, we describe how individuals manage stress, interact with others, approach work tasks, and solve problems. So we actually get information about, can you actually do the job? And lastly, which is also very unique for the Hogan, we also look at the dark side of personality, which concerns behavior when people are off stage, when that emerge during times of stress, when they're not monitoring yourself, when they get bored, and which might be performance risk that could get in the way to actually create the environment that you're trying to create, perform the way you want it to perform. So the bright side is what we get to see mostly in a job interview, while the dark side is what we see after they come to work. So just a quick insight into each of these. The motives, values, preferences, inventory describes personality more from the inside. There we're actually interested in the core goals, the values, the drivers, and interests that determines what we desire and strive to attain. By assessing the values, we can understand what motivates candidates to succeed and in what type of position, job, and environment they will be most productive, but also what kind of environments are leaders striving to create. So it evaluates the fit between values and cultures and predicts success and job satisfaction. The Hogan personality inventory describes normal or bright side personality, qualities that describe how we relate to others when we are at our best. Whether your goal is to find the right hire or develop stronger leaders, assessing normal personality gives us valuable insight into how people work, how they lead, and how successful they will be. It is developed specifically for the business community, and the HPI predicts the ability to get along, to get ahead, and create meaning, which determines success in careers, relationship, education, and life. It is based on the 5-factor model, which is the most known model in personality psychology. And lastly, the Hogan Development Survey describes the dark side of personality, qualities that emerge in times of increased strain, and can disrupt relationships, damage reputation, and derail people's chances of success. By assessing dark side personality, you can recognize and mitigate performance risks before they become a problem. It is actually the only personality assessment that identifies critical blind spots that can lead to career derailment. So the HDS concerns behavioral tendencies that might be strengths under normal circumstances. However, when these behaviors are not being managed or when they're overused, they become problematic and often degrade leadership effectiveness and erode the quality of business and personal relationships. And all in all, we can do these assessments in about 15 to 20 minutes completion time. There's an instantaneous scoring and reporting output. We do it as an online administration, and none of these assessments have any invasive or intrusive items, and they don't have any adverse impact on an individual. Now let's see, how can we actually harness the power of Hogan assessments? Let's dive into Alex's leadership transformation with the Hogan. Alex came to us, who is a seasoned professional and climbed the ranks over 15 years due to his exceptional technical expertise, and made it to a director of operations within a renewable energy solutions company. Alex faced significant challenges as a leader despite all his past achievements that he gained. His team described him as overly critical and micromanaging, leading to dissatisfaction and a noticeable dip in productivity from him for the team. These issues made clear that while Alex excelled in his technical role, his leadership style needed a little bit refinement. So that's when we did the Hogan assessment with him. And here are the highlights that we got out of the Hogan assessment. First of all, we could see that he was perceived as highly prudent, highly conscientious, reflecting his meticulous, detailed-oriented nature, which indicates also his very high cautious approach that contributed to his micromanagement style. Also, we saw a lower adjustment score in his HPI, which indicates that he was struggling with stress management issues, which in turn impacted his interpersonal relationships. The Hogan Development Survey revealed a high diligence score, his perfectionistic tendencies pronouncing his overly meticulous behavior under stress even more. And we also found an elevated skeptical score, which indicates a tendency towards distrust and critical feedback, which was demoralizing his team. And lastly, what stood out in his MBPI was his need for high recognition, underpinning his relentless push for perfection and his desire for achievement, and a significantly high security value, illustrating his need for control and predictability. So in the feedback session, these insights were a revelation for Alex. He recognized that his approach, while beneficial in the past for his technical roles, were counterproductive for his leadership position. This was a pivotal moment for Alex, sparking a commitment to change. Armed with this new understanding, we crafted a leadership development plan for him that focused on fostering emotional intelligence, enhancing flexibility, and honing delegation skills. He started by implementing regular one-on-one meetings to support and empower his team rather than directing them. He removed the competitive elements that had previously defined team interactions, replacing them with collaborative and individual goals that fostered a more supportive environment. He also introduced monthly team building activities to build trust and improve team cohesion. These changes marked a significant shift from his previous leadership style. And over the following months, we regularly reviewed the process or the progress, and Alex's efforts were soon reflected in improved team morale and productivity metrics. His own reflections during our sessions noted a significant shift in his job satisfaction and leadership effectiveness. So the results were remarkable. Within 6 months, employee satisfaction surveys indicated improved morale and engagement. And we could see really in the data that this had an impact on his leadership style. And last of all, Alex reported a significant improvement in his own leadership effectiveness and happiness. In conclusion, I hope Alex's journey illustrated the profound impact Hogan Assessments can have on a leader's personal and professional development. By understanding and adjusting behaviors that stem from deeply ingrained personality traits, leaders like Alex can transform their approach, leading to happier teams and better organizational outcomes. So at the end of the day, successful leadership development is founded in the relationship among assessment, learning, and development. It begins with self-knowledge and the assessment, building strategic self-awareness, and then target specific behavior to modify and improve our reputation. We can learn to acquire new conceptual knowledge about skills and behavioral strategies. And development occurs when leaders apply that knowledge and practice new skills to initiate behavioral change. In leadership development, all of these 3 components are necessary and need to work in sync for long-term change to occur. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your presentation. And we have one question from the audience about, I guess, about emergent and effective leadership.
Mm-hmm.
That research about it has been published 40 years ago. So has there been any continuation in this research? What are the recent data saying?
Yes, so this is the data that is like the foundation of it. And we have continuously internally done research on this as well and seen this within the organizations that we've worked with. We do not have recent publications about that, I have to admit, but we do have seen it within our own data, and there's continuous research on it in that regard.
So what are the key qualities that you're looking for identifying effective leaders?
Sorry, I didn't hear that question. There was a...
What are key qualities of effective leaders that you are trying to identify?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the key qualities of effective leaders is mostly adaptability that we have, that I described a little bit earlier. There is not what we can actually define the key qualities, that there is no perfect personality in that sense. It's more about how do we leverage our strengths and use our knowledge, our strategic self-awareness about our development opportunities in that sense. What is actually essential is to actually, what we can see more is like that we can determine ineffective leadership much more with personality assessments, and really determine that as well, and help leaders to develop more effective leadership in focusing on building teams and not on self-promotion.
And I'm very interested in the concept of strategic self-awareness. I find it very interesting. And could you emphasize one more time the difference between self-awareness and strategic self-awareness?
Awareness, yes. So strategic self-awareness, it's not only like just about knowing thyself, how Robert Hogan always likes to say it, but it's more about actually putting that into actionable insight, to know like the gap between your own perception about yourself and the reputation about yourself, and putting that into actionable insight to actually connect that more in that sense.
And it's quite interesting. How do you balance nurturing of natural strengths and all this bright side of personality with working and improving some challenge areas?
Yes. Yeah. It's
a permanent question. Should we work on our strengths or should we work on our weaknesses?
Exactly. So there are actually two approaches in psychology that go into either strength and strengths that comes out more out of positive psychology, or actually harnessing like looking into development opportunities and getting to the next level. And I think there is a medium to be found where we need to leverage our strengths, but also look into the development opportunities and actually get a leader onto the next level. Because I always say there is no growth without pain, where we actually go through understanding how to develop our development opportunities, or I'd rather like to call them development opportunities than weaknesses, to really look into like, how can we get to the next level? And that really helps in looking at the development opportunities than just relying on the strengths that we always relied on. To develop actually and to create a better portfolio at the end, it's always better to add something into the equation. So I think there needs to be a great balance of it to really put out the strengths forward and look into the development opportunities and focus on them to create even better leaders.
So how would you recommend to integrate assessment results into building development plan?
Yeah, so as I said before, and I hope that came a little bit clearer in my presentation, I would start with the assessment to kind of figure out what are our strengths, what are our development opportunities, to build a development plan on that. We do actually have an integrated way within the Hogan Assessments, where it's very easily for the manager, the leaders themselves, actually to follow a individual development plan with like, continue doing that. That is your strengths. Stop doing that because that is derailing your behavior, and strengthen that part, like learn new things in that part to help you grow to the next level. Does that address your question?
Well, I think it's quite difficult to make a change for any person. How much a person is capable to change? What do you think?
Yeah, so in general, we do say personality doesn't change. We consider personality as relatively stable over time. Our personality actually develops within the first 4 years of our lives, and then we only have like 20% of like a wiggle room in that over the rest of our lives to actually see changes in it. But what we can change is behavior, and that is the distinctive thing of like what we can put on top of it. What we measure with personality assessments is the core assessment. That's who you are as a personality, and that's not what we're trying to change. Because that's who you are at the end of the day. What we're trying to change is like or what we're trying to develop is like, how do you work with these edges that you have? And how do you learn to regulate those edges with your behavior, and how through behavior change we can actually develop. So at the end of the day, it's not about changing personality, it's about changing behaviors.
Well, I think we might discuss personality as well. During coaching sessions, I ask sometimes my conversation partners to put themselves and just 10 years back and to consider, well, what kind of manager have you been 10 years ago? Have you been different?
And what's the answer?
Well, guess. The answer, of course, 10 years ago, I was quite a different, well, I couldn't say that I was a very different person, but I was quite a different manager. So everyone changes in 10 years perspective. And that means that definitely we're going to change in the next 10 years. So that's why development makes meaningful activity, because we are going to change anyway. So it's better to make it productive. Let's make it for better use than just to follow some outside forces.
Yeah. And I think you have a great point there. Is like context is going to change. Context is continuously going to change. And the manager that you see now has been 10 years ago in a different kind of context, and will be 5 years in the future in a different kind of context, most likely, especially because we live in such a fast-paced world where constantly things are changing, and we need to adapt to that. We need to adapt our behavior to that to actually bring and propel our organizations forward. So development is a significant part in just like to adapt and have that kind of adaptability towards that changing context.
And we have a very interesting question from the audience, that motivation is the key element to deal with dark side of personality. And does Hogan Assessments give any insight if manager is eager or motivated to deal with it?
Yes, we can actually see in the Hogan assessment whether people are eager to develop or are more, tendency to stay or stick with the status quo when it comes to about themselves as well. So we can see that in the Hogan assessment in different scales, whether they are actually more on a self-development track, the development track in itself, or are just more leaning into the comfort zone, the status quo kind of perception. So we can actually see that.
Okay. Can you tell us which scales should we be looking at?
For instance, a good scale would be to look at is the learning approach scale in the HPI. So there it tells us a little bit more whether we want to have continuous development, or we are more in the status quo frame. In that sense, there was a word missing for that. That is a good indication for us to see that as well. Which also we could see it in combinations in some MVPI scales. That depends a little bit on the context as well. Someone who is there we look more if like it is more ego related with the recognition and power, or more other related as well with affiliation and altruistic, what it is more about, why they want to continuously grow and develop themselves. So there is just like the combination of it, which is going to be interesting to look at.
You mentioned that Hogan assessments have no adverse impact. But could you elaborate a bit more how Hogan assessments can contribute in creating a bit more diverse and inclusive workplace, maybe in not only by helping recruit diverse people, but also in coaching leaders in creating diverse workplace?
Yes. So what comes when it comes to inclusion and diversity, I think an interesting part or a significant part is the values when we're looking at it. Values are tell us more about our subconscious biases as well, that we're driven by. And so it helps us to recognize that more and to actually put that out there and realize, okay, what subconscious biases am I driven by, and what behavior within the work environment do I actually reward, and what do I punish? And that there's a lot of gold in the MVPI towards that, to kind of help leaders understand actually what they're striving for, and what how their unconscious biases actually might lead to less inclusion and less diversity, and what they actually need to look at. So the motivation and values preference inventory is really a gold assessment for us to really improve diversity and inclusion when looking in into development.
I see. So what advice would you give to organizations who seek to create a leadership development from within?
Sorry, the last thing from...
what advice would you give to the organizations who are seeking to create a culture of leadership development?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really foster leadership development from within as well. Like what, like, do you actually reward leadership development? Do you reward self-leadership development? Do you reward that in as well? Like looking at mentoring and having senior leadership develop others as well, and really looking into how can we holistically develop people, because it is about, at the end of the day, not a skill development. When we look at leadership development, it becomes much more a personality development, as it becomes much more your tool of navigating the complexity of today's world. So much more looking into the personality development part within leadership.
What are common misconceptions that you meet when you discuss personality assessment and leadership development?
Yes. A lot of misconceptions that I actually see within well, one of the first ones is that it's not paying off. We don't have any return on investment. It's just on a soft side skill. We do actually have a lot of return on investment within higher engagement, higher retention, et cetera, et cetera. So there comes one of the misconceptions that I really see within leadership development. A belief that leadership development is only about formal training, that comes a little bit into that as well. It's really neglecting sometimes the importance of on-the-job learning and mentoring. I mentioned it a little bit before, that it is really about the interpersonal learning as well. It is not just about we're going to do another leadership training and then we get the skills in. It's really about self-development, but also in development with your teams as well. And their mentoring has a high impact as well, in my beliefs. And another one I would say maybe that I always encounter is leadership development is only necessary or a need when you've reached a certain rank status within the organization. However, we do believe the earlier you start, better and more sustainable the impact will be on your organization as well. So those are the most common ones that I feel like I'm encountering within leadership development.
And what would you say for to a very common argument that, well, any assessment can be faked, and that I can answer in any way I am willing to project myself?
Well, we do set these assessments that this is actually not a possibility so much that you can fake it, that we can actually see that and capture that within the assessment. But one of the things I always say is reflecting on it, how much sense it makes actually to fake personality assessment, because personality assessments, in my opinion, have a lot of win-win potential. We have to win from an employer kind of side, that we can actually see, does the candidate match what they have to do, what they have to perform? Do they match our values? But at the same time, for the candidate, it's also to see, hey, do my values match with the company? And can I actually perform what they need me to perform on? So it is actually preventing a lot of frustration. And in my opinion, there is a lot of win-win that doesn't even lead to the fact that we need to talk about the fact that there's any cheating or like anything around like making ourselves look better and more fitting for the job. Because at the end of the day, when you're at the job, your personality will come out, and you cannot fake your personality on the job.
Okay. So I guess our time is coming to the end. And if we still have some questions, you can put them into chat section. And as a final note, so we have learned that personality assessment can be a great starting point for any leadership development. As Ryan Sherman, Hogan Assessments Chief Science Officer, said once in one podcast, that starting any leadership development program without taking initial data where we are and where we are going, it's very unscientific. It's very unproductive. So it's crucial to remember that personality is quite important in shaping leader behavior and accordingly organizational outcomes. And if you have any questions and would like to continue this conversation in the future, do not hesitate to contact us.